I'm excited you're here. You're here to learn about building stronger connection with your son because you really value him and you value yourself, and you hope that the two of you have a really long-lasting, meaningful relationship. Or your kid is difficult and you're fighting a lot and you want to find if there's a new approach. Either way, we're so glad you're here. We're going to talk about how we are learning so much more about boys and what they need, and how we as moms really can learn to reflect on how we're showing up to create a calmer, more effective communication style amongst us, so that we're not fighting, that we are having discussions, we are chatting, and we are hopefully having a bit more fun. Welcome to Boy Wellness. I'm Stephanie, your guide. This is definitely more about me being a guide. I'm not a coach. I am definitely not a medical provider, and this is not medical advice, nor am I a therapist or a mental health provider. I'm just coming to you with 15 years of professional experience as a nationally recognized patient advocate who really also focused on developing educational programming for parents and kids, learning how to interact better, how to have better health outcomes with their medical conditions, which is pretty much the same thing that we're doing. We're wanting to create better health outcomes for our children, because living in conflict and dysregulation and broken connection isn't healthy for either one of us. Wonderfully, the work that I did was in a health space that primarily impacted boys, everything from birth to adults, but really my love focus has been on kids, teenagers, and young men as they kind of grow and move through this space. So I really got to watch them, what worked well with their families, what didn't, and what they really wanted as young adults and teens and tweens. And I'm going to layer that professional experience with my personal experience. I have 3 children spanning from college to elementary school, and the middle one is in high school. So I get to provide this retrospective evaluation of how parenting has changed over the past 19 years, because it's changed so much. We know so much more, but there's also so many more challenges coming at not only us as parents, but also really coming at our children, and how we need to adapt for that. So I bring that with all the experiences personally that I've had. But when we go through this video, I am going to try to exclude, to the best of my ability, my personal experience. There'll be plenty of opportunities for us to learn about my personal experiences so that you can grow from them. But this is going to be kind of like when you go and look at a home. And you know, when they put your house up for sale, they say you need to take down all the pictures of yourself. You need to take down what personalizes it so somebody else can see themselves in your home. So for this podcast or YouTube video, we're going to take my stories out so that you can put your stories in. I might use a few generic stories along the way, but they will not be my own. As an advocate, I have learned, and an educator, when I do this, then I can be a little bit more direct, and I can bring my mom heart into it, because mom heart and mom fear are a driving force for me to not be able to function well, right? And probably you too. I mean, we do not give enough credit to the power of mom heart and mom fear for us to not show up well for our kids. Best intentions, but that one-on-one time when that fear hits, boom, I usually have to do some repair after that. So that's kind of how we're going to look at this. This is not a quick fix program. This is a long-term solution. There are no supplements that you are going to take that are going to make this journey easier, because what we're having to do is a little deconstruction, a little evaluation, and a lot of simplification. And simplification can be scary, because simplification doesn't mean easier. It just means getting rid of the clutter, right? Getting rid of the distraction around us. So this is going to be a really fun, exciting adventure. There is a workbook that goes with the series that's going to follow this. All of it is free. Do all the things, follow if you think this is worthwhile on socials, whatever, you know what to do. We've all been doing this for a while, learning online and in a community like this. The workbook and the information is free as you get to know us. And also too, working for a nonprofit for 15 years, I don't really know how to charge. And this is so critical, right? This connection is what I think is missing in so many different things, because we live in such a disconnected world. And we're learning so much more about boys and how we can engage and foster these amazing relationships with them. Because I promise you really can have an amazing relationship with your son. So we're going to go ahead and really start looking about where we can adjust and what we don't know. And one of the things that we don't really know is how boys regulate. What does boy regulation look like? And why is it not something that we naturally recognize as moms? And some of this comes down from the fact that we're women and they're men, and we're going to stay women and they're going to stay men, completely open to all spectrums, but in theory. And so we need to look at how are they really going to show up versus what I want. So many moms want that sit on the couch, drink hot cocoa, share to me what happened that day, and that's just not how they communicate. So you're not going to see that. They're never going to make you feel like they're connecting if the connection is not something that will ever be likely in their playbook. There might be a few who do that. I have one of the world's chattiest, and he doesn't. Sorry, I said I wasn't going to do that. Before we dive in, let's kind of go over a few things that we're not going to do. We're not going to fix your son, because that's not in my skill set, because I'm not a doctor. And we're not going to blame you, and we're not going to blame anyone. We're going to realize that we're opening and going in with an open mind to just try to create the best humans we can, the best selves that we are, and the best that they are, with no pressure and no expectations. And kind of really just dropping those expectations and being excited to see really who are these boys and who am I as a mom. But I will tell you why this is going to feel harder. It's going to feel harder because you're not going to just be able to do something quickly. You're probably going to have to take more time. And I think that is uncomfortable, because some of us, we're still learning on how to have conversations and to sit in that space that comes along with being a boy mom. It's uncomfortable because sometimes their dysregulation can seem louder or bigger, or what we were taught is scary. And it can feel really unfamiliar. And I think really it's that having to think through and pause for myself can be so exhausting. But the reward at the end, I promise you, really can create that relationship on why you're watching this video, why you looked for this information. And when we prepare ourselves that this is going to be work, that usually that helps me know that I'm going to have to kind of dig in. So when we kind of look at those little bit of last statements, what we're realizing is that there's a lot of miscommunication that's coming from our sons to moms, because we are reading it wrong, right? We're reading it so much as rejection. We're reading it as hostility. And instead of seeing it as how they are appropriately communicating for who they are. The fact that a boy, when they are regulating, often is going to do it by maybe going to the gym or playing their video games or being kind of quiet amongst themselves. They are bigger often than we are, so their actions of maybe a little bit of a lit fuse can seem so big when maybe it's proportional to if they were the size of a girl. And that's, them kind of walking through that. But we can feel so rejected when they go into their rooms, or when they slam that door and say, I'm going to the gym, and thinking if you just talked, we could get there. But if we kind of let them go through their thing, let them take their time to regulate, they usually are going to come back around, or they're going to be centered enough for you to knock on the door and be like, hey, do you have time to connect in a few? Or hey, I got your favorite snack. Would you like to have some? And just connect with you. Knowing that connection is going to look different, and to not take that rejection really allows us to see what they're trying to tell us, right? If they, you can usually kind of watch. They usually take 45 minutes after, or when they come back from the gym, they're happier, or I can grab that quick side hug, later on in the day. One of the reasons it really does feel harder too is because developmentally what we expect from our sons and kids in general is not something that I don't think most people expect out of the grown-ups in their lives. Can you imagine going to work for 40 hours a week, there and back? And my work day is probably quieter than what a middle schooler boy's life is like. Then when they come home, it's expected they're going to go to an after-school activity, usually for most about 2 hours. Then they're expected to come home and they're expected to do their homework, anywhere from 20 minutes to a couple of hours, depending on the kiddo. We might say that you need to do the dishes. Why haven't you done your laundry? Your room is a mess. I want to connect with you. Have you talked to your sister? Did you email your grandpa back? All of these expectations that we want them to get done in a day, I don't think I could get done in a day. And when we kind of look at it from that way, we can see like, oh, wow, I'm not catering to them by saying like, hey, FYI, I put aside dinner for you when you got home. Just please be respectful and, put your dishes in the dishwasher. The rest of the kitchen is clean. Or, hey, I'm going to throw a load in. Do you have your soccer socks? I know it's coming up this weekend. Realizing that they have so much on their plate and you supporting them as like a teammate, right? We see that shift versus kind of hovering over can really make sense. Because that's what you would do for somebody that you love if they were an adult, right? For your partner, I don't make, something for my partner because it's a duty. I do it out of, I appreciate them and want to be kind and give them a cookie, get them a glass of water, right? Whatever it may be. And when we look at what they're walking through, we can understand, one, why they may come home from school and need to veg out for 45 minutes with their video games, because I would need longer. Or why they might come home and slam that door and want to go to the gym because they just went to 7 classes in high school, showed up 7 different times for different people, and came home and are probably overstimulated no matter who they are, at least needing some time to kind of regulate themselves. And when we can actually see and think about what their day looks like, I don't know how they do it, but it gives me a lot more understanding of maybe how they need me to show up as a support system. We're starting to be able to see how this miscommunication is developing between us and our sons, right? We don't really get or have forgotten what it is that they are trying to do and what they're trying to get through in a day. We don't realize that how they are regulating, that they need that time when they come home, right? We're not realizing that they are going through so many different changes and that they're changing just as much as girls are during this time period. We just recognize it differently or not at all, right? If a girl says, oh, I'm no longer into Taylor Swift and starts getting into Billie Eilish and wants to buy all new clothes, that seems like a normal change. But if a boy wants to switch from no longer liking Legos and now they're into video games, we think all you care about is screen time. Is that really a different shift? Probably not. We're just looking at it through a different lens. So when we can kind of start getting outside of ourselves and what we think we've been told about boys, we can really see that there's just so much opportunity to create these little moments of support that really build into connection. They're really excited to have you support them. They're really excited to have you realize that something is hard and difficult. They just may not want to talk about it for 15 minutes, which is so fine, right? Because you're going to get the other connection in different ways. You're just, What this helps us walk into is understanding that discipline, conversation, connection, a check-in, I often call it like a redirect or let's debrief. Let's take a step back, right? There's all different ways to frame it without it being like discipline or a lecture. When it can be heard. Because often our reaction is you slammed the door because you're going to the gym. I'm mad. I haven't seen you all day. You haven't told me how your math test went. You slammed the door and have to storm out. Where they might have accidentally just closed the door too quickly and they're going to the gym because they have been answering to people for 8 hours in 7 different classes. I'm hurt, so I want to throw back that energy to them, right? But if I'm able to take kind of what we've looked at and go, oh, okay, I'm gonna have to sit on my hands, I may have to dial a friend, I may have to go on a walk myself. Over time, it will get easier, right? This is why this is harder than the idea of if you slam the door, you're punished, no phone. Because when you say that, like, you slam the door, you're punished, no phone, that instantly escalates, that instantly disconnects. And what you're creating is a consequence that doesn't correlate to the actual experience or what the child is really putting out. They're now upset and angry because they're like, I've had such a tough day. You don't see me. You don't understand me. You don't know what I've been through. You don't know what it's like. If you can kind of look at it from a different perspective, kind of flip it and reverse it, a little Missy Elliott, you can see like, okay, when they come back, I'm going to see how the day is going, and we can have a conversation when they can actually hear. And I can say like, you left pretty quickly after school. I'm guessing school was tough because usually, maybe you grab a snack beforehand and the door kind of slammed on the way out. I'm not sure if you were angry or if it was just the wind, but I just wanted to check in. When you capture that moment that's later on, when it's not full of anger, but you can acknowledge, like, you might have, like, this is why I think maybe you had a bad day. You left faster. You didn't grab your usual snack. The door slammed. It could have been the wind. It could have been that you were stressed, because at the end of the day, a door slam really means nothing, right? It's just a behavior, but they didn't fail school. They did not go to school. They didn't drop out, right? Like, there's not those real things that we should be concerned about. But when you connect in those moments later on, when they can hear, and they hear that you have gone through and seen them, they may say like, just crap with the team happened, or my math teacher wasn't great, or I don't think I did well on a test. You're not going to probably get a ton after that, but you're still going to be like, okay, do you want to talk about it? But you're finding out what's really going on. You're finding out and you're building this connection. You're letting them know that, like, you're not expecting them to be perfect. You can't say like, hey, be careful more with the door next time out. I think lots of them are going to say, oh yeah, I didn't mean to slam that. Sorry, the wind caught it. I dropped my bag. There's often, and I always am so bummed because I have to do repair work. Often when I go in and be like, you slammed the door, they usually say something like, oh, I know, I'm so sorry. I dropped my drink and I was trying to grab it and the dog, there's all these other things. And then I have to be like, well, that makes sense. Then I get to say, I'm sorry. Like, I kind of came in hot. That wasn't necessary. You're not usually a door slammer. So I should have thought of those things, or I should have reflected, and that really takes us to the repair part, right? Like, as we see all of these different things, there's no way we're showing up perfectly. There's no way that we're not going to come in hot because there was a door slammed, or be a little bit more reactive than we want to be. But all we have to do, and this is like, I have loved this about boys since I've always been kind of a boys girl back in the day of college, right? Is that boys can repair pretty quickly. Granted, you need to make sure you change your behavior. And if you keep showing up and yelling at them, they're not going to trust in that, right? But you can say like, hey, I owe you an apology, or like, hey, I should have done that differently. Or I just wanted to come in and say that I really recognized earlier I came in a little hot. I just want to apologize. I'm not going to make excuses for myself. And they can say usually thanks or whatever. Or I could say like, because it's not their job, because they're the kid, to be my support system. They're not there to be my coach, right? I don't want to say like, I was really hot. Your dad was a jerk to me on the phone. You just own it. Like, you're taking all that ownership. And it's really hard to take all that ownership, but you're showing them what this is supposed to look like. You're showing them what that behavior is supposed to look like. You're showing them how to apologize and how to own their feelings and emotions. And they're going to mirror that back to you. You do that a few times and you're kind of in and out and you're humble and you're not making a big deal about it. And you just go along with your day, and then you don't have behavior and shame towards them. You have behavior of, you're human. So you can be like, hey, sorry, we're having bean burritos for dinner. Come on up. It doesn't mean that the world stops, that anything stops. So now when they come to you with an error, because they've seen you can err, they have reliable information on how you're going to respond. They have data in their brain saying, well, she's brave enough to tell me she made an error, and when she does, she moves on. She doesn't overly ask for an apology or for my acceptance. She accepts that she did something wrong. And so when we've created kind of this space, when we've owned when they haven't done things, right? Oh, like you didn't slam the door, you dropped your bag. Oh, those things happen. Or of course, like you're exhausted when you come home. You've had to show up in 7 classes to 7 different people with 30 kids in each of them and then be on the bus or drive out of the parking lot, plus all the other stuff. When you show those things and you show that understanding to them, they no longer view you as foreign to connect with, foreign to kind of come and share that information with. But it's really us taking the time to re-identify, relabel, re-see and learn what is a teenager look like? What does a boy teenager look like? A boy tween, a boy young one? How can you have more fun with them, right? How can you take them up on little offers, get to know who they are? And that's really what this is about, right? It's a readjustment that can be so fun and so rewarding, so that at the end of the day, you have a kiddo, when they grow up, when they go off to college or do something else, they're calling you. They're calling you sometimes just because they're like, it's a beautiful day, you want to see it? Or, hey, can you help me study for a quiz? Or like, I got this stain in my shirt, can you help me figure it out? Or like, I kind of got myself into a situation. Can you see if you could help me? Right? No matter what it is, like the spectrum of different things, the different roles we can show up as, from parent to coach to partner, to eventually being like their teammate. I want my children at the end of this journey, and you're going to look back and start thinking about, what do I want the end to be, right? Like this kind of after end being when they're graduating from high school. For me, I wanted them to be a partner. All the boys that I worked with were looking for a partner. They weren't looking for somebody to lecture them or to think that they weren't growing up. They weren't looking for someone to always view them as somebody who had made these errors, or this kiddo who always had this medical condition. They wanted to be able to morph and grow. And I think that that's really something that we don't see in our boys, that they're going to morph and grow and change and shift just as much as girls. They're going to want to change their hair color. They're going to want to change their friend groups. They're going to change their music, change what they eat, change out their workout routine. And if you think about all the different things that we think a girl is going to change between those teenage years, that list is really long. And the list for a boy can be just as long. But we look at those changes as startling, or why aren't you telling me more about it? Versus being like, oh, fun. Okay. Like, you're not into high top tennies anymore. Now you're wearing loafers. You're not wearing a hoodie. You're wearing a zip up. Don't make fun of it. Embrace it, right? Like, take these tools that we're seeing here, because you'll see them in patterns throughout. So this is exciting. This is the introduction to the Boy Wellness Connection Workbook in the series we're going to go into. In each video, we'll break out a little bit further, talk about tools and resources that you can bring to the table to help continue to develop and foster that connection that you are looking for in your son, to build the healthiest you and the healthiest them. Thank you so much for giving me your time, and I look forward to continuing to connect.